All right, I think we'll get started. You are on this is a panel on shared registries, and is this too loud? Can you guys hear me? It's fine? Okay, cool. Shared registries, really just shared infrastructure, also price feeds, and we have representatives from four companies kind of who are all doing similar things with respect to these pieces of infrastructure. And this is just going to be a lightweight conversation about how these things might evolve in the future and how open protocols might share infrastructure. And I would also want to stress we're really looking for it to be interactive. I don't think anyone has the answer on this panel. And so we want your ideas and your thoughts. So, let's figure out how to make this as interactive as possible.
Cool, so I guess I'll introduce my project. So I'm working on Abacus, which is an identity and compliance platform for tokenized securities. The way we're using registries is that we have basically a claims registry. If you're doing KYC or AML, you basically need to write a claim on chain, or we write a claim on chain saying that this person's passed our KYC AML checks. And anyone can write to this registry. We write under our Abacus name, but if someone else were trying to do some sort of attestation, they can too.
Hi everyone, my name is Max, and I'm co-founder of a company called Marble, and what we're doing is making it really easy for people to aggregate capital and deploy the capital towards margin lending at first, but whatever interest generating mechanism. And the way we're a little different from some other folks is that we want to be a little bit more opinionated with regards to like how we build the protocol. So we have, just like Maker, all of the loan servicing stuff, all the parameters actually in the protocol, as opposed to some like more generic protocols that are meant for people to build on top of. So yeah, we actually want to have price feeds built into the protocol, and liquidation parameters like collateral ratio, etc. So it's a rough intro.
Hey everybody, my name is Mariano Conti, and I work for Maker. I'm the head of oracles. I'm actually not only that anymore, but the title is so cool that I keep calling myself that. And so Maker, if you went to Runestock, we build the DAI stablecoin system. And we really need the price feeds for every single asset that we use. Right now it's only Ether and MKR, but eventually it's going to be quite a lot more. So we got one of the oldest price feeds on the blockchain right now.
And I guess I forgot to mention where I'm just coming from. Dharma, open protocol for tokenized debt. And we currently use a token registry to map addresses of tokens that can be used in these debt agreements. And then also headed for building a price feed and needing that to be across many, many token pairs as well. I think I'm going to let Ian take it from here. There's a number of questions that he had in his doc.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the first discussion question is, should we have a shared registry in the first place? Like, what would this shared registry of either price feed attestations or some sort of attestations look like? I do think that we need I believe in central registry contracts. I think that although you might need some sort of governance to maintain them, if you know all of the different actors in the system, for example, for you guys, it would be you two, Maker and Marble, collaborating on a price feed registry that is like a canonical registry. Although you have to upgrade the contract, you guys can both agree on it.
So I guess I'll just take a quick second to frame the question, frame the discussion here. So there's two things going on. There's a lot of people building a whitelist, kind of a registry of safe tokens, like safe ERC20s, right? Because protocol is only as safe as the tokens it uses. Dharma is one of them. You guys are one of them, although with security tokens. And then separately, a lot of protocols are also rebuilding price feeds for pretty much every lending protocol that's out there has its own price feed. So if you look at Maker, of course, was the first one. Compound Finance operates its own price feed. DYDX Expo does its own price feed. and we're about to do our own one. Dharma, you guys are about to do your own one. So it doesn't really make that much sense that everyone should just duplicate this effort. If there was a way for us to collaborate on it in the same way that a lot of folks collaborate on a lot of other kind of smart contract paradigms and other stuff, it actually makes the whole system stronger if everyone can use the same infrastructure. So I guess that's the discussion. As knee deep in developing ourselves, we want to spend the least amount of time possible on a price oracle if it's not like the core part of our protocol. Obviously, like the security and performance is super important, and we wouldn't want to point to someone else's price feed unless we knew 100% that it was always going to be right. But at the end of the day, like that's just not where we make money. That's not like, obviously it's makes our protocol work and makes margin lending work in the first place. But if there was a way to collaborate, that's just time savings and cost savings for us.
Okay, so I would say Maker is one of the oldest projects in Ethereum, right? So almost anything that we did, we had to do ourselves because there was nothing out there. And I remember when I was tasked with, okay, we need the price of Ether in USD on the blockchain. That was it. That was all I was given. It's like, and I looked at Oracle Eyes. I don't know if there was anything out there yet, and nothing really fit our needs. So this came up organically, and we built it ourselves just because, one, there was nothing like it out there. And what was out there, either it didn't have the right implementation, or there was no easy way to wrap it, or they would only update once every 24 hours. And same thing happened with Oasis. We wanted to trade, there was nothing there. We built a market on the blockchain. And so now I agree that we're not in the Oracle business. Is that we don't sell this information. It's like we have it because we need it. And we would have to look at the benefits of actually building a registry, what the overhead would be for us to even start considering getting people to work on this and not be working on something else, right? So we'll have to look at the benefits and go from there, which I'm sure there are some, but it would not be something that we would start right away.
So I would summarize, I guess, the tension here being that none of us are really running businesses that are making money off these price feeds or shared registries. So they're not really core competencies. Simultaneously, we're all engineers, and so we all see this as kind of just duplicated work and non-value add. But then the other question is, or on the other side of this is, who is going to do this work, and who's going to do it well, and who's going to do it in a way that we all can all trust. And so it's kind of interesting because it also parallels, I think, a lot of the decentralized movement and its kind of tensions of like, this is almost like a commons, right? And who's going to maintain it. And obviously there's many of these token models now that have purported to kind of solve this problem. Can we come together across protocols, right, and share this infrastructure and build this infrastructure together? And if so, that itself is a question, right? And it hasn't happened to date and doesn't seem to be happening. But if it would, how could it happen would be kind of some of the follow-up questions. And I also will say, like, if people in the audience are feeling particularly passionate about an idea here and that they have, please, share it and we'll get the microphone to you. I'll weigh in, but I just spoke a while, so I'm going to hand the mic off.
Yeah, so I think there's two approaches we could take here. One would be some sort of central registry contract, like I mentioned earlier. Basically, anyone involved with the price feeds would basically be able to write to this contract. It's kind of like a whitelist, similar to Maker's current price feed system, except more than just Maker participants could, attest to it. The second approach would be to create some sort of adapter that people could agree on. or they don't have to agree on it. Basically, projects like Marble could use this contract that interfaces with Maker system or maybe with Dharma system, all the different systems out there that already exist. And you can kind of take like a median or like, I guess, the mode of whatever value you need, and you can consider that to be the actual value in the registry.
You also have to keep into account that probably different projects are going to have different needs. For example, for our CDPs, we eventually for MCD, multi-collateral DAI, we are only going to be updating. We can update the prices several times per hour, but there will only be one price at the top of the hour every hour, and it's going to be a price delayed by 1 hour. So that's going to be the main oracle for each token pair. And while people could go into that if they need it, they probably need the one before that probably gets updated several times per hour. And there's other projects, for example, we're handling the price feed for Augur, so Rep USD. They came to us a few months ago and it's like, Mariano, you're the Oracle guy, right? And it's like, I mean, I guess. We want you guys to do the Augur feed. And it's like, okay, but we talked internally, said, okay, it's a good idea. And yeah, they just handed it off to us. And right now they said, okay, we only need it updated once a week. So even if we do use that, it's probably useful for them and not even anybody else. If we were to eventually use Rep for our systems, then we would need to start updating a lot more.
Well, you do our Oracle. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, you're totally right. I think one thing that Ian said that I want to bring out is like there's kind of two different problems that you were talking about. One of them is the incentive problem. Like for Maker, their approach is like they roll things out a little bit more slowly. So like they have the ETH DAI thing really unlock, and then they're going to have multi-collateral, so just a couple tokens, just like really unlock, and like their main focus is the DAI thing. For protocols like ours, which is more about like lending out a bunch of different tokens and like having access to a bunch of different things, we're going to probably be a little bit more aggressive with like supporting more different types of price fees at the beginning. So the question is like, how do you incentivize people to, so like what these guys have, which is great, is if you're a Maker holder, it kind of makes sense for you to run a price feed reporter, or I don't know what you guys, what the terminology is, but one of the nodes that reports into the medianizer contract. There's kind of like a built-in incentive there, but for a protocol that doesn't have the token, how do you create that incentive? And also for like, imagine both of us, multiple teams wanted to all contribute to a single oracle or incentivize a set of reporters on a single token pair. Like, do those people just all hold all of our different protocol tokens, or like, is there a standardized way to pay them? Do we have to pay them less maybe because there's all 5 teams using the same set of oracles? That would be cool. But another thing that you were talking about is just like having a standard. So like, saying that there's an ERC20 standard for transferring tokens, like if we're all basically using price oracle for the same thing, which is, what's the price at this time? Like, it would be nice if there's just like, at least on the smart contracts, like function layer, like if there was just one way to ask for what the price is.
Well, Mariano, I'm actually interested when Rep came to you, why it made sense on your end to kind of take on that request. Because a lot of companies would say like, oh, I mean, we have focus, we have limited resources, I'm not going to do your work for you. What was the logic there?
So Rep could eventually, theoretically, like not saying anything, it could be a token that eventually gets into the multi-collateral DAI. So at least on my end, I wanted to see how quickly we could get a new price feed going. And turned out it was pretty quick. And then it also makes sense to say, hey, a lot of people want to use Augur, but they want to use it with DAI. And I think it was kind of a nudge to Augur to, like, hey, we're already doing this work, start getting real about adopting DAI into your system, because it's going to be good for you and it's going to be good for us. And beside that, we also run the Polymath USD price feed as well. And that also is good for us because we can, I mean, I cannot go a lot into, like, those are business deals. I just like to handle the oracles. Like, they said, hey,
Oracle guy.
yeah, build us Poly USD. And I'm like, okay, figure it out with the business people. And then if they say yes, and probably they did something behind the scenes, and that makes sense for us to build it. And eventually, if we ever need to use that, if that's ever voted in as a collateral, we already have the infrastructure there.
So when you onboarded those new reporters for those new price feeds you just mentioned, so Rep and Polymath, or whatever the token is called, how did you find the reporters? Or maybe you can correct me on, like, what the actual term is for people that submit it.
Yeah, we probably also call them oracles, every individual one. When we started the alpha version of DAI, which was called Psi, it was maybe 5 or 6 people inside Maker, and then it started growing to include members of community, people from other projects, and just for security reasons, we don't really say who the oracles are, and that's a good thing, because they really handle a lot of money in the system. But we try to keep a network of people decentralized from all over the world running all this software. And a lot of them, you mentioned incentives. Like, right now, there is no, the incentive is that either they want to make the system better, that they trust it, maybe they hold MKR. Eventually, there's probably going to be...
Do they hold Red?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
That is, I think that's separate from the issue. If we can get more people using, I think Gnosis as well uses our ETH USD feed, and probably some others. And if we eventually have to change it, then probably going to have maybe a 3-month period where we announce it all over, because a lot of people have really been hooking up into it. So no, yeah, just right now, it's all people who have a stake, mostly in our system, not necessarily the others.
Awesome. One more thing that we considered in place of using, like, a real-world price feed is just getting it from DEXs. So Bancor Kyber. We really thought we were going to do that for a while, but then I think we just got spooked by how little volume there is on those DEXs. I mean, it's great for the DEX landscape, but it is kind of scary. Like, it really makes me think, like, how expensive would it be to just mess up those prices for, like, a couple blocks and then liquidate a loan in that space. Obviously, like, as DEX volume grows, that could be a really easy, like, zero cost way to have an on-chain price feed. And it's probably resilient enough for, like, certain use cases, like hackathon use cases and stuff, but maybe not for, like, production systems where you might expect millions of dollars to be going through. Do you think that's, like, possible in the future?
Maybe in the future. We also looked at price discovery in exchanges, but you cannot do that for illiquid assets. And you can have not even a whale, somebody with X amount of money. It doesn't have to be much per asset to shift the system and, yeah, making it essentially useless. And for multi-collateral DAI, we're actually going to be using the feeds less, because there's going to be auctions for selling off collateral instead of selling it at fixed prices. So, I mean, they're still going to be there. There's going to be more, but we're not going to use them for that part of the system.
Oh, Mariano, you're in the best position to kind of answer a lot of these questions just because you were the first in the space and have kind of seen everything be built up. But it does sound to me like you're becoming the de facto price feed in some ways, right? I mean, relative to anything else, people are coming to you and kind of having you handle this. And one, you're kind of compounding on your experience, right, and ability to do it. So it's only getting stronger as an effect. I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, do you become, like, does Maker just basically have a component of it, and does it see itself as kind of maintaining this ability, and the community kind of rallies around you, and we figure out how to formalize it? Or is this something that breaks down eventually with you guys, where, you know, different teams with different needs are coming, they're putting a lot of pressure on you, you can't follow the timelines, and that breaks down and we all kind of splinter off? What does your intuition tell you, like, where we're going?
So first off, clarification, it's not just me. Like, I have a team. There's Nick over there. He also works on feeds. So, yeah. And there is a lot of people who've done a lot of the work, right? So yeah, I think essentially we are mostly almost canonical just for ETHUSD. Well, that's probably the most useful one. I really cannot say what the future will bring, but as long as it makes sense for us to keep running our own oracles, we will. I think if there was a solution, a cost-effective solution that came out later and we evaluated it and it felt like a better solution, then we might even go with it. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I still want to do, like on a technical just like challenge. We are moving away from all transactions in the blockchain all the time. We're moving over to signed messages off-chain, and then we want to explore CK Snarks oracles in 2019, maybe, if I have time. So I think on the one hand, I'd like to keep innovating and sort of like personal pride to be the canonical price feed, but I have to remember myself that our business is the stable coin. It's not the oracles. That's like a byproduct of what we do.
Have you thought of a way to expose your oracles in a way so that, like, it's more flexible? Like, let's say someone's not dealing with DAI. Like, let's say it's just some random like price pair, like, I don't know, USDC and I don't know, 0x, yeah. So, like, how could you build a system that supports that thing? And even though it's not in Maker's interest, is there a way to, like, make your system generic and that it will only take a little bit more time to allow such structures?
Sorry. Not with the current version. With the next version that we're working on, it would be a lot more simpler. We're going to have signers. They don't even need to run geth parity like right now they do, and that's really a pain point, because we have to deal with out-of-memory issues, VPSs with very big hard drives, and the next version is just going to be a tiny program that signs messages with your private key. That's oracles don't even need gas. Like right now, there are systems that constantly monitor these different oracles, and they send tiny amounts of gas whenever they get below a certain threshold. And the next version, signing messages, is free. So it's just a matter of coming up with the sources that we would have to gather to say, okay, each individual oracle, okay, you get the price of whatever token and get it from all these places and just sign it. That would be fairly easy. And then the way they work, somebody else could even deploy the smart contract and have their own whitelist that they want, and they could grab those messages and send those to the blockchain if they decide that they trust Maker governance to select decent oracles, decent signers.
Yeah, I guess it's all about the whitelist of who can be in there, right? Yeah, what do you? I guess. We could open it up to questions, or, I mean, there's a lot of, there's, a decent amount of nuance in the system that you guys actually have implemented. and it could be interesting for folks to learn a little bit more about that. I know we've been talking about it at kind of a high level. I'm curious to know how the ZK Snarks Oracle is going to work, if you have plans on that. But yeah, what do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, does anyone in the audience want to weigh in? Yeah. I just have a question. Yeah, go for it. Do we need the microphone or not?
Is there specifically is there a mechanism to punish oracles who give bad price information?
No, not really. We would just take him off the whitelist. So right now we would need, I don't know, out of 14, so we'd need 6 or 7 to misbehave in order to actually influence the price. And I'm very proactive about it. I haven't had a good night's sleep in like a year and a half. I'm constantly monitoring the system. And so far we've been very lucky. Like there hasn't been any misbehaving. There's been instances of people like forgetting that they run an Oracle, and like the system usually works extremely well, except for some when parity or get crashes, and if they don't have a couple of scripts there to like set it back up, then they just forget. And I like to wait sometimes. If you go to MakerDAO.com/feeds, you will see all those ETH, MKR, Poly, and Rep, and you will see that there's often, at least for ETH USD, sometimes there's 1 out of the 14 that's offline, and I don't really go like right away saying, hey, like put it back up. I like to wait. I think the longest we waited was 3 months that we had one down, and it was just like I wanted to see what would happen, like if that would cascade into another, but yeah, it didn't.
Just to follow up my question, you mentioned incentives before. Like, is there ever a worry that somebody could be incentivized to act that big short position and they offer to throw the price up?
No, yeah, there's always the worry. That's why we're going to have the Oracle security module. That way, any price, we have a 1-hour window to freeze that asset. So we don't have to freeze the entire system. We can have people all around the world constantly, like different time zones, shifts, monitoring the feeds, and ready to press the red button to freeze that asset and make it so that you cannot trade against it in the system until we figure out what happens. And yeah, that's online right now for MKR. It's not online for ETH, just because we still have, we sell the collateral on liquidations. We sell them on a fixed price feed, and you cannot have a 1-hour delay on that. But for the next version, we are going to activate it for Ether as well.
To what extent would like a shared price feed infrastructure between all the projects represent a single point of failure or some kind of systemic risk for the ecosystem?
Can you speak up a little bit more?
To what extent would a shared price feed infrastructure represent a single point of failure or some kind of systemic risk for the ecosystem?
Was that for me or for everybody? Okay.
You have the most experience.
So I mean, it could. I've thought about this for so long, and I've been taking stuff out of the blockchain instead of putting it in. So I have versions of oracles that have incentives in the blockchain. So whoever got to be the one to actually send the transaction would get a certain amount of, let's say, DAI or whatever, or they would get like game tokens that they would eventually be able to redeem, or but they're actually not cost effective. It's every time I remove something from the smart contract, it's I feel a little bit better, and whatever we can do off chain and off computation. So in this case, I had thought about having weighted oracles on-chain, and that could be something related to registries. So maybe you have a registry, but they're not all treated the same. So maybe you could have one where you could trust Maker's feed. Probably you could weight it a little bit more than a new one until the system gets, I don't know, more mature, and you could have 5 different ones, and it would be resilient to have like 2 of them be down or be representing incorrect information. But then again, what is incorrect information? I also had a version that would actually stop the price if it said that, I don't know, the price shifted more than some percentage over a certain amount of time. But the problem with crypto assets is that that can really happen and does happen. So how can you say what amount is sufficient, right? So, yeah, that's. Oh. Do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have a point there. Like, it's definitely introduces like some level of systemic risk, but I think that, you know, in my head at least, there's like a way to architect it where the network effect of like everybody kind of contributing to the same thing would overwhelm the greater amount of risk that they're taking on. And I mean, it sounds like everyone's using the Maker Oracle anyway, right? So like it's kind of some systemic risk anyway.
Yeah, I would say the only problem with a shared registry in terms of using the Maker Oracle is that if the Maker like token economics like cause something wrong with the token in some other aspect that's not the Oracle, that could be a problem. So I guess a way to fix that could be to have like a token specific to just the oracles, and that token can be owned by like Maker holders and by, I don't know if Marble has a token, Marble token holders. But the problem with that is that that token needs to actually be worth something, otherwise then that could be gamed.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add or weigh in on that. That's unique. But I guess one of the things that's coming to me is like an idea, and I'm wondering what you guys think is like. There's so much work to be done just related to price feeds and the complexity and the experience, the uptime and the decentralization, and they just didn't, you know, even ZK Snark's now adding to it. Like there's just so many factors, and it's obviously a full-time job of multiple people. Is this not like a meta protocol that all of us open protocols could then require to like kind of be stakeholders in, right? So it seems to me like it could lend itself quite well to a tokenized kind of functioning governance system, right, where all the users or the heavy users of it have some voice in it, but it's being maintained, and then there's like a network effect around something that's kind of not centralized isn't the right word, but just shared maybe is the better word. Just interested to know what you guys think.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I think you really have to think it through, right? So like with Maker, with you guys, as you just mentioned, like what are the incentives for you to join a system like that if you're already leading the charge? Why would you want to own a token that has anything to do with a price feed that doesn't like connect to your product at all? But I mean, definitely, if anyone out there is feeling entrepreneurial, would love to hear about how like some crazy staking game that makes that work. Definitely something like there's a really strong need for right now. Questions?
Well, it seems to me that the same problem with price feeds exists in the incumbent traditional finance world, where you don't know what's the official exchange rate of the traditional fiat money. So, for instance, in this case, the central bank is establishing the official exchange rate, but it seems to me that they should have the same problem of how to establish the correct price. So maybe that's some inspiration, if you can inspire from the central banks how they do it.
So I think in that case, it's like turtles all the way down, right? So you have to, like the buck has to stop somewhere. It's true. We each of our oracles, it reads from several different places, and because it's like you're presenting some information, but you're also getting it from someplace. And how can you trust that I don't know, I'm throwing it out there, but like GDAX or Kraken, Gemini, any exchange, Yahoo Finance, whatever, that they are reporting the correct price, right? And then, yeah, how are they getting it, and how is the other? I mean, for us, I try to make it somewhat simple. It's not even me. Like, there's a team in Maker. The smarter people than me came out to me, and I asked them, and they said, no, this is a good way to get like an accurate price. And then, as long as you have a lot of people doing it, it's going to be fairly decentralized, and that's the way we've been doing it. But I'm always on the lookout for better price discovery, and I'd actually like to know how you guys get your prices from, or not necessarily sources, but like how you do it.
Yeah, so we're definitely like in the early stages of development. Like we just got to the price oracle part of the issue list on GitHub, literally like Friday, and I was like, oh man, conference on Monday, got to read all of Mariano's smart contracts. Like, what's going on? You know, so yeah, I mean, I don't really have a great answer to that. It's probably just like copy what everyone else is doing. Honestly, it seems to be like the open protocol way to do it.
Right.
A couple of weeks ago, we had like a big spread between different exchanges because of the tethers, right? But still, it was not big enough like in the past with docs, right? And how it would handle we had such big spread, like in the time of docs, and it was for a long time.
Well, first off, we do not consider USDT USD, so we do not read from anything that reports ETH USDT, right? Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, you would say that because in this case, this happened, it was CoinMarketCap, right, that got their prices, or am I referring to the same event you are, or not?
A couple of weeks ago, we had a Ether, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, you had GOX that had totally different price than we stand.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't US dollar.
Yeah. So we read from several different places, and as long as the majority is correct, then medianizing it should remove the outliers. But that's why we have guardians looking at the price. So in the case that anything is really coming incorrectly, and that's also a judgment call. So there's a little bit of art into this as well. I don't know if that anybody who uses DAI, if that makes you more or less likely to keep on using it. But you have to have a little bit of human interaction and like common sense to that. So if we see that the price is actually wrong, we just push the red button, and then we just either stop the system or stop that individual price feed. So hasn't happened yet. I've actually been able to refine oracles over 2 years. Like when CryptoKitties happened, we had to refine all of our gas strategies, and then during like different points in time, everything that supposedly was a problem just made them a little bit better, like the software. And so I would say I'm actually looking forward to something like that, so to see how we deal with it.
All right, thank you for joining, and thank you for participating, guys.